What is up? Today we're going to take a quick look at something small. POTP Skullgrin, or is it Liege Maximo, or is it Doulos, oh, whatever the hell you want to call this guy. It's the small purple skull man here. Okay, yeah, before we get into anything else, I just want to kind of break down that kind of name thing, because, okay, yeah, it says Skullgrin on the box, technically, on the back of the card he comes on, and that's describing this outer form. And then you open him up and the bloke inside is Liege Maximo, the old G2 monster man who's now Prime retroactively, except, you know, that little guy there looks a hell of a lot like Skullgrin's old inner robot, and oh dear, it's confusing, isn't it? The whole deal with, you know, the range of these tiny little pretenders that we've got in Power of the Primes now is really good. They're really fun little toys. I really wasn't expecting to get like this many of them after I got the Metal Hawk, because I thought, well, he's enough, you know, they're all basically the same thing, but somehow they're really fun. But they're also really confusing when you look at them in a kind of metatextual fiction sense, because who is this? What is this? What's going on? There's one thing that feels like it's been missing from like the whole of this Prime Wars trilogy of Generation stuff at the moment. It's that Hasbro just aren't really giving us enough solid fictional explanations for why any of these guys do what they do now, and on one hand I can just completely live with that and forget about it, but then it's like as soon as you try to go and talk about it to illustrate some facts, it comes a bit of a mire that you've got to wade through, and it's like, oh dear, if they just solidified a few more details everything would be peachy, because of course the really strong lines that we've had in the past have all been built around really strong fiction, you know, a good cartoon or a good comic or a film or whatever. But there's some meat on the bones, on the skull of the face of the stories of these different iterations of Transformers, and it doesn't really feel like you've had much of that in Generations, and now it's finishing and it's going to be replaced by something else that looks like it's going to be trying to be stronger story-wise, but at the same time will probably be relatively weak compared to other things. Who knows? Oh, let's talk about the plastic. So yes, Skullgrin is this little goatee skull man with his skull belt and his fishnet tights on there. He's purple, he's grey, he's doing all these things. He can take this Reiki thing off his back, put it in his hand, and it's another kind of gardening implement weapon. His hands are 3mm, so you can go and take an old Cyberverse thing, or, you know, the only Last Night Legion guy who came with a weapon, and give it to him. Extra stuff there, you know, interactivity with a weapon system that hasn't actually existed for about, what, 5 years now? So that's just what Skullgrin does in this mode, or in the Skullgrin mode, if you want to say. Yeah, his arms do that. Open him up, let's take a look in here. If I can get the guy out. Come on, come on. Okay, ripping him free from his sarcophagus, which, I mean, all of these guys do the same thing. Why is it only Skullgrin that I'm getting the kind of mummy in a sarcophagus vibe going on here? Is it the skull thing? I don't know. I like it though. Here is Liege Maximo, looking just very much like Skullgrin when he was skinny and turned into a tank and didn't go LARPing in this thing. Yeah, it's really detailed, tiny little sculpt there. They've painted his head, although they've painted like the outside of his head there grey. I really like it. It just pops with those colours. It's nice that it is so detailed for something so small, you know. They've really kind of knocked it out of the park with tiny things these days, haven't they, with the Titan Masters and everything. Good, crisp sculpting is certainly what Hasbro does better than anyone else right now, and yeah, it certainly shows on this guy. Of course, you can move his tiny arms and get him to sit in things, but the main thing he's supposed to do is to fold up into a block, just go break his knees and turn him into this thing. What is it? It's a pink kind of Halloween pumpkin face thing. It's the spark of Liege Maximo, apparently, and it does things. Should we look at what it does? Of course, when I say it does things, that's kind of giving it a bit too much credit, because the main gimmick for Power of the Primes now is that you take your little coloured blocks here and you slot them into other robots, and nothing happens. No, like, spring-loaded things flip out, and nothing, you know, there's no combination or special anything. It's just a very, very small cosmetic change, because now Dreadwind has got this purple thing in his chest. Hooray. Yeah, whoopee. At the very least, you know, you can kind of give them points for it actually working across every size class in the line, because you get your Voyager, you can stick it in their big foot armor thing there, or in the middle of your big combiner if you feel like it. But it doesn't stop there, because if you want to put him in the Matrix, you can, and don't know what that would then do, you know. What's going to happen if you open that up? Do you just, like, grow horns and become a big goth? I don't know. Or, you know, actually let him be a robot and sit in the Legends guy like that. There we go. He's driving Beachcomber now. Or is Beachcomber giving him a lift? It's up to you. So you can say that really, for what you're getting with these tiny little guys, who are the cheapest price point in the line, you can do a lot with them, technically, and that's not even it, actually, because I've forgotten things. Of course I have. Now, of course, this is completely unnecessary and not, you know, anything that they tell you to do, but you can still go and make it a head, you know? Because, of course, it uses the whole Titan Master kind of base of things going on here. But, yeah, like, it feels like they could have, like, removed that functionality entirely, but no. You can just go and plonk this weird object on someone's head, and some of them do actually look kind of cool like that, so it's another option. Certainly if you want to go and customise up your own Matumty Lost Light Functionist blokes. But then the very last thing that this thing does is turn into a weapon, because, well, I'm not going to say of course it does, but it's nice that it's got another mode to it that interacts with the bigger fellows. So you just turn the shell over, extend the Freddy Krueger claws, and then you're supposed to kind of stick this on the top. Oh yeah, it's deciding to stay there. It doesn't always. And now Dreadwind's got some Wolverine claws. Snickety snicked bub bub. Or, you know, you could just go a bit mad and just go and stick it on anything that's got a 5mm hole in it. POTP Skullgrin Liege Maximo then is decent. You know, he's a good little bit of pocket fun, I've got to say. And you can kind of say that about all of these other Pretender guys. Yes, ostensibly, you know, they're all just exactly the same toy. Just a kind of Legion figure-sized shell with a tiny head man inside, or a tiny block man, spark man, whatever that is, thing in there, and they all turn into a kind of gun or something, or in the case of the bludgeon one that hasn't come out yet, some kind of pointed stick. Is it worth it for the price it goes for? Yeah, I guess so. Like, I mean, I got this as part of the very last haul from Toys R Us that I'm never going to do. I made myself sad. And he was £4. I think they're supposed to go for £6. Is that right? I don't know. I spent 11 on him. Each of those was about 7, because I've got those 2 in a set. So, of course, the less you see them for, the better, but honestly, it feels like they give you so much fun, and they kind of work with the whole, it's generations, it's something old, made new again. It can appeal to you if you like Pretenders. I mean, I didn't when I started getting these. Like, Metal Hawk is the first one I got because I started watching Super God Master Force, and I really like it, and it's like the best TF show I've seen in bloody ages, and it's a lot of fun. It made me think, oh, I want a figure of Metal Hawk now. So I went and tracked this down, and I got him. I really liked him, and for a good long while, just having him was perfectly enough, because he's a novelty item. You know, when it's your first one, it's a bit of a novelty in your collection, but then I went and got the rest, and it's a bit like, it's just kind of more of the same, but it is a lot of fun you can just have with these guys. Yeah, definitely. I guess if you are a Pretenders fan in the West, you could kind of say that he's a bit too small. But burdened as I am with the glorious knowledge of Super God Master Force, this is kind of the right scale, you know, coming up in a kind of knee height to a deluxe, because, of course, in Super God Master Force, you're introduced to the idea of Pretenders as just regular sized guys. They're not like 20-foot tall people, as like the original Pretenders kind of look, because they're the same size as all regular figures, and it's like, well, why is this bloke massive? And then there's a robot inside him, and why would he dress up as a giant person? But taking the Japanese route, you'd basically see these guys as, well, yeah, the robot shrinks down and they go in a suit like this, and then when they want to transform into their proper robot mode, their face comes out of nowhere. Does this really cool kind of graphics thing, and then they're full size through what I can only imagine is magic. I'm pretty sure I'll be picking up the Bomb Burst one just to make the old Decepticon Pretender trio. But that does then put in another question in my mind, because of course Japan now get everything generations exactly as we do. And that seems a bit wrong, it seems a bit off. Now that I know about Super God Master Force, know that this guy's called Doros and this guy's called Gilma, the fact that they've both got 2 names on each of their packaging, and neither of those names are the ones that everyone in Japan will know because they know Super God Master Force, it feels a bit like, oh, you know, that's doing a bit of a disservice, maybe? It's especially apparent with the characters that they're using in Power of the Primes, even like Triple, you know. He's not called Buster in Japan, you know. I feel like I'm burdened with this knowledge now of the fact that characters are different in different forms of the Japanese media. And now that we're really focusing on that kind of 1988 kind of Super God Master Force stuff over in the West, it's like, suddenly Japan's actually, you know, losing out on stuff there. But at the same time, I win because I managed to get a figure called Metal Hawk, not for a massively horrible price. Skullgrin and the Little Pretender boys then are a good bit of fun, nice bit of pocket-sized novelty, definitely, and if you don't really like Pretenders, I can understand where you're coming from, but honestly, pick up at least one of these guys, they're definitely worth your time just for something very, very different, and for what feels like the logical next kind of evolution and better version of the old Titan Masters we were getting from Titan's Return. But out of all the ones I've got here, definitely Skullgrin feels like he just brings the best vibe somehow. Don't ask me why, I really didn't intend on buying him at all. Like, when they first all came out, I was like, well, Skullgrin, okay, that's kind of cool. I'm not really that enthused by bright pink level 100 share zone over here, so it was a bit of a surprise, actually, to get him and think that actually standing him amongst his peers, he's my favourite. And if you like him too, I've made a shirt with his face on. Shameless plug! Pretender!